let me now share the screen and we'll go into the verse. This one is interesting. I say that all the time. I need to find different vernacular. Oh, this one was interesting. Really, Carrie, you always say that. But it truly is, because I want you guys to pay attention to something here first that I find very interesting. Because when you take a look at other translators and how they look at it, look at the difference. I've got Dr. John Etheridge is in the green. I've got King James Version in purple. And I've got Janet McGear's work, who I adore her work, by the way. I've shared some of the resources, and that's what I use predominantly for the Aramaic. And look at the difference. So we've got John Etheridge, be wakeful, therefore, for you know not that day nor the hour. And then we have King James, watch, therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. Okay, I want you to pay attention to that. Wherein the Son of Man cometh. And then we have Janet McGear that just says, therefore watch, for you do not know that day or hour. So we got some similarities, but yet the one that sticks out in the middle is the King James Version. I'm going to show you something that I find very interesting, because this phrase right here is nowhere to be found in this verse. I raised my eyebrows on that. Because I'm like, are you kidding me? That is a huge piece of information that the King James Version put in this verse, that you will not know wherein the Son of Man cometh, but that is not even in here. So I'll show you, I'll just scroll down through the words so that you can see them. So, and then we'll go in and we'll break them apart like I have done for you in the past. But we have, so in the Peshitta, what I've got in here, I've got the Peshitta and what they've used in their translation of the breakdown of the words. And then if there's other things that were left out, I will have them over here. But we can just look at the mechanical translation through word definition. So we have awake, wake up, watch, arouse, wakeful. And then we shift into therefore, know not. Keep going down, known, recognize, thou, day, that, those, not, no, hour, time, moment. That's it. There is no Son of Man. They put that in there to make people connect to this, that this has to do with the return of Yeshua. In connecting, because the whole parable was connecting that Yeshua was going to be that bridegroom that comes. Remember, we are finishing out the parable of the wise and the foolish virgins. And it's interesting because one of the revelations for me that I got within the last, I don't know, week or two, is how this verse is not about comparing the wise and the foolish in duality. It's showing us in both sides that we've played. The reason why I'm sharing it like that is because something that Ken and I saw a long time ago is that these messages or these verses need to be made personal to us. They are written to us. They are written for those who are excavating them out, who are eating the information spiritually. And that's why the oral tradition was kept away from the general public, because of the misuse potentially, or another way that you can see it from the English scriptures is throwing your pearls before swine, right? There are going to be those that just don't care. And this is such a sacred place for us to see what was written to us for our betterment and expanded consciousness for those who would treasure it, guard it, protect it, versus those who would not. So I'm just as a reminder, we're making it personal to us. So all of the stuff in the wise and the foolish prior to here is where we've played both positions for us to be able to understand that in duality, the whole goal, and this is why the foolish and the wise both had an aleph added to the end of them, because it was bringing it into the place of oneness unity, not divided as fools and as the wise, but getting to the place where the unification is coming together. And for me, when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can see where the expanded consciousness is coming in through the oneness unity to be able to see that we're neutralizing both, because we've been both. I admit it. In what was being shared before, I've played both sides. I definitely have played both sides. I've played it in this lifetime, and in some of the other ones that I remember from previous lifetimes, I've definitely done both. And again, for the narratives of being able to have division, the whole thing, like we were talking about at the very beginning of this, is getting rid of that dual mindset where we're dueling one another, D-U-E-L. We're dueling one another because of the way you see, and this is my perspective versus your perspective. Well, there's only one perspective. And in consciousness awareness, it's awareness. It's us being expanded in our ability to be in the moment, in our now, without the judging, without being in the system of duality, playing on that chessboard, moving our pieces around, constantly feeding in through the emotional attachment that we put onto these things. So now when we look at this verse, after saying all of that, when I look at it, the very first word in here, it talks about, the translator changed it. Here, I got to move you guys around a little bit so I can see. So therefore watch. But look what is in this word. Awake. So we've talked about that mankind, humanity was put in a tardime, in a slumber, in a sleep twice. There was the initial one that happened in the narrative of the garden with Adam, when life was pulled out of Adam, Chava. Mankind was put in a tardime when life was pulled out, and we have to seek life because we actually entered into death when we came in. So we got to find Chava, but we were put in a sleep back then. And then there was another narrative that went with Abraham, that when the covenant, a promise was made, Abraham was put in a tardime. Abraham was put in a sleep. But it never said on both of those situations that mankind or Abraham and his seed woke up. There was never, they were roused awake. They were put under a deep slumber. So this last verse in here has to do with being awake and waking up. It's right here. And then to watch and to be wakeful. And when you look at the root of it, and I know you guys can't see it, and it would be in Aramaic, so unless you know the Aramaic symbols as well, the root of it is Ein Resh. So we have an Ein here, and we have a Resh here. I don't mean to highlight the Yod, it's just that word makes it difficult for me to highlight the right letters, unless I go back to the Bashida, and I just don't want to jump back and forth. So Ein Resh is the root of it. So everything else that's been added, it has meanings that we need to look at. What is it saying to us? So this Aleph Tav Tav was added to the prefix, the Yod was added in the middle, and the Vav was connected to the suffix. So we have, in three different positions, we have mother being represented on the prefix, we have father on the suffix, and we have source creator in the middle. So all three parts of our triune being and all of the aspects are being activated right here. And it's connected with the word meaning to wake up. Wake up to your triune being in your parts that are all fractured, that we're trying to bring back together into oneness. And it's telling us how we can do this. This is why the sacred languages to me are so important. Because what I have seen in the vibratory frequency of the letters themselves, they already wake you up. Because there's such a high vibration to them, and they are letters of light. And light is information that the more you bring, the more expanded you become out of your contracted state of ignorance into an illuminated state where you have actually gone through that process, and the letters do it. And that is what it's sharing with us right here. So on the prefix, we see this. We see the Aleph Tav was given, and Aleph Tav is a summary of the Aleph through the Tav. And I've shared this with you guys before, and I know this is inculcation, but this is literally, if I said to you the alphabet, in your mind, you would think of A to Z in English. When Aleph Tav is written, it's the same thing. If I said alphabet to you, you would know that if I'm saying Aleph Tav, It would be the beginning of the language through the end, because literally the aleph means beginning and tav means end. You know, first, last, beginning, end, alpha and omega. Of course, in Aramaic, it was literally written as the aleph tav, not alpha and omega. That's Greek. They took that over into the English translations. But in between the aleph and the tav is all of the letters of creation in the vibratory frequency that is connected to our DNA. So again, it's very personal to us, very personal to us. And when you look at the tree of life, all the letters are represented on the tree of life in the totality of who we are in our becoming process. So this is letting us know right here what is going to help wake us up to be further illuminated, expanded, is the aleph tav, going through the sacred languages. And then it has two tavs that are here, twin covenants. And when you even look at the word covenant, brit, bet, resh, yod, tav, it comes from the word of compact, but it comes from the source called, it's bara, to create. So this is the covenant of creation. The aleph is removed, yod, tav is put in there. So brit, the covenant of mother and father, is the covenant of creation that produces an heir to the throne. Power is given in the covenant that is our inheritance to those who have been purified, selected, and made themselves pure. That's literally what's in the word for covenant. And that's never explained. Like, when you don't look at the letters and you don't look at the frequency, it also is telling us that we need to build. We need to build our temples to raise ourselves up through the poor and destitute state that we are in, so that we can accept the power that is being granted by Father for those who've met the requirement, who are now exempt from judgment because they've been marked with a different frequency. That's what covenant means. So right here, we have two tavs that are represent, because literally the tav in Paleo Hebrew means sign, signature, covenant. So we have twin covenants that are coming, that are part of the oneness unity that you will see through the aleph tav language. Is that making sense? Are you guys kind of connecting? Did I explain that well enough? So mother's job, and when we look at it through the spiritual sense, mother's job, AKA if you need to attach this to an entity, I will say it this way. Yeshua's job was to present this to us. Now it's a spiritual concept, and the spirituality of the Holy Spirit and pre-incarnate Yeshua as Yod He Vav He have always been here to help present this to us, but it had to manifest, or it chose to manifest in flesh form to show us the way of one. And this right here about, and again, this is Yeshua talking here. This is Yeshua talking in a parable to say, look, here's this oneness principle that is coming. Really, I'm presenting this to you if you have the eyes to see it. There's twin covenants that are being brought to you that are meant to wake you up. And the beauty of this, we'll go into more detail on it because I'm really driving down on the letters. It's just this first word blew my mind when I was looking at it to see what was added. Because again, this isn't get translated over into English. So you don't know these beautiful little nuggets that are waiting to be discovered until you dig. And so then what's added? Well, power, because the yod is power, is on the inside. So power is being granted to give you means and a direction to do what? Well, in the static form with ein resh, ein is to see, and then resh is the head, which also means poor and destitute, being raised up to be a first fruit leader. This is saying that these covenants that are coming, that are being presented through the aleph tav, is meant to give you power so that you have on the inside, so that you have the ability to see, so you can be raised up to a first fruit leader, then connecting to Father, now having your power under control and meekness. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of information in one word. And we didn't even get into definition yet. That's just from the letters. But we know it's about waking us up. So when we go and look, we're going to slide it on over here a little bit so that we can look a little bit further into us, because I still want to have you guys be able to see the word. Oh, don't do that. Not nice. There we go. So when we take a look at where this came from, it talks about the other part of the Aramaic of this is to be awake, to watch, to be alert, to be vigilant, and to stir up. So there's something that these letters, the Aleph through the Tav, and these twin covenants, that they automatically help us to become alert and to be vigilant because we've woke up to something. We've been aroused into being awake to see what's going on around us. And when we take a look at where this comes from in like the Hebrew aspects, so the Aramaic is the spiral fashion. This is the divine feminine principle. The foundational piece of the Hebrew in the linear fashion, the horizontal before vertical, is that I love this. It comes from Ein Vav Resh, which means to be blind, to have a film over our eyes. So we are being woke up. We're being awakened to the fact that we were once blind and we couldn't see. And that's what I was sharing with you guys in the beginning, that 9/11 was like my wake-up call, because I really didn't know what was going on. And in fact, I can see why they say ignorance is bliss. But it's not very productive. But, you know, I needed to be roused awake because I was still in my slumber. And so this word, the root of it in Hebrew means to be blind. So now let's trace it down a little further. It means a skin, which the original meaning is naked skin. So when we entered into this matrix in our naked skin, born into it from our mother's womb, we came in blind. We came in blind. We didn't know the game. We had no idea. And it means to be made bare. So then we have another form of it that is another primitive root. And I find this is interesting because we've got all these primitive roots that are like static. They have potential energy that hadn't been made kinetic. And that makes sense. So if you're blind, there's lots of potential there. Spiritually, you can either see or not see, but you're blind. And then you're naked. So we need to be clothed. We need to be able to see. But in the lump clay, there's nothing going on. There's activity that is supposed to take place. But another form of this means, when we take a look at it, to open the eyes. So same letters, it's got different vowel points, but the same gematria, same letters. One means to be blind. The other one means to open the eyes, to wake up, to rouse oneself awake. I find that fascinating because, again, duality, both of these things must exist, and our job is to neutralize them into one. So being blind and waking up, it's really the same thing when you render it into neutral, because you realize that the experience had to happen. You had to be blind so you could wake up. You had to not see so that you could see. You had to be asleep so you could wake up, because all of this is leading into expanded consciousness of awareness, of a higher state of awareness, not being dropped in to say I was asleep and then I was awake, transmuting them into I'm aware. It's a different perspective, but we have to be able to see these to compare them. Yes, I was asleep for most of my life until my husband came into my life as my friend and helped wake me up, and it terrified the crap out of me. But I had to have it as comparison to go, nope, now I'm just aware. So then when we trace this back down, before I get into this form here, I do find it interesting though, that the gematria, so gematria, if you guys aren't aware of this, again, I say this for inculcation's sake, and if anybody's joining us that hasn't heard this before, gematria, every Hebrew letter has a number associated to it. So like Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel is 3, and it goes through, and then you start getting to 100, 200, 300, 400, and 1,000. So when we add the numbers of the letters together, they come with a total. So for example, the word ahava, when you break it down as Hebrew word for love, the gematria of that is 13. So any other word that has the same gematria is related to it. So in this state, and these are easy because they're the same exact letters, so you know they relate. They're just in a different order. I don't even need to add them up. Well, the reverse order of this means to give a blast with a horn or a trumpet. If that triggered something at the last trumpet blast, There's a reason why. Because there's a place and time that's coming that everyone is going to wake up. And Greg, this is why you were talking before about holding space to be able to help people to assimilate. Because once this blast happens, this trumpet blast, and all eyes are awake and are aware, because everyone's going to rouse awake, there has to be those that can help them assimilate this information, because it's going to be overwhelming. So I can totally attach that to what you've been saying, or what you shared at the very beginning. And so the reverse order, so let's take a look at this. Those who have the eyes to see, that have connected to their heart within, to the place of source creator, that are the first fruit leaders, reverse it, are those that are going to lead to help the others attach to their heart so that they can see what's going on. That's all in here. So when we then trace it, so that's the root. That's the root foundation, not the trunk, not the leaves or the branches. This is the root of what's going on. What is the first movement that we see? It's this word, Ein Yodresh. So as long as you're connecting to your heart and connecting to source, you are being given power on the inside. Because our power comes from connecting to source. And if you watched some of the other teachings that we've shared, source, origin, creator is Abba. Aleph, Bet, Aleph is Abba. That's source. We're not talking about mother and father. We're talking source. Mother and father are represented by Yeshua and the Holy Spirit. Source, all creator, Abba. So this is the power that's given from Abba. And it means a city, but it means a place guarded by waking or a watch. So when we wake up, we become a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden, because we are in our wakeful state. We've been aroused awake. And it's interesting because even this word down on the bottom of it says excitement. So I will say when I woke up, it was pretty exciting. Not necessarily in the good sense, but it was exciting. There was not a boring day. Oh my God, everybody was trying to kill me. Sorry. I have to laugh about it because it was such a horrible place, and I can see how it's been translated out of my life now, and I just have to chuckle. But it really, it took my boring life and put it on steroids, where now something was completely different. So excitement can take on lots of different forms. But once you're awake, especially to the spiritual path, there is a part of it where we are to guard it, not only within ourselves, but we are to be awake as to what's going on so that we can assist the other people that are going to be waking up, as shown in the opposite order of these letters, to be the leaders to help others connect to their heart so that they can see. Because at some point, this whole thing is going to be blown wide open. And I believe that disclosure that's coming is more than that. I don't believe it's just the alien agenda that's going to be exposed, because I think there's going to be two sides of that as well. There's going to be a lot more that's going to be coming in this revealing period, as starting out trickling in as disclosure, but it's going to lead into much greater revelations, because we literally are living in the time of the apocalypse, which we've shared is the Greek word for the revealing. The revealing of what? Of all. That's what we're getting ready to go into. And so we need to wake up. So when we look again at the letters, we can see that the process of it is through the sacred languages for those who are being drawn into it. This is going to rouse you completely awake. The twin covenants that were meant as form of creation to help select, purify you. It also means to winnow you, so that the ruach, the air, the wind, is tossing you up to remove your chaff, so that the fruit that has been formed in your life is then what's brought into the storehouses, because you're actually part of the fruit that is going to be helping give sustenance to other people when they are needing and seeking, because we become the temple of Anath, which means the temple of answers, because they're going to have a whole lot of questions. So this process of rousing awake, we've already been doing it. And that's the very first word starts us out in that. Do you guys have any questions on that? Does that make sense? Any comments you want to make on that first word? You don't have to, you can just sit and listen. But if you have something to say, please share it. I'd love to hear it. If not, we'll just keep going on. Are we good? Looks like we're good. So then we move into, so those who have become awake, that are the guards, that are awake and are watching, what do we have next? This is so incredible, you guys. I get blown away when I see these things. This word that you see right here in this form, Hey Kaf Yod Lamed, is the Hebrew word for temple, the great house. So those who have been awake, who've been stirred up, make up the great house. That does something to me. That does something to me on the inside, as I feel it. There's something there that we make up the great house. And it's interesting that, Aramaic doesn't necessarily recognize that, but yet we have to build in the linear fashion first on the horizontal before we can go vertical. So once we are awake to the fact that we all make up the great house, then that starts bringing that equality in, that we can begin to see that you as a temple, me as a temple, we all make up the grand temple, the great house, those who are the builders. I love that, because the temple is represented by the Hebrew letter Bayit. Oh, we got somebody else coming in. Yay. Hi, Lisa. Glad that you're here. We just did the first word. We're moving on to the second word. Yes, Greg.
Would that be the same as like the remnant?
Yeah, actually, that is a really good word. I would, if you look at it through the English translations of the word remnant, yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I did talk to somebody about that before, and I think I've shared it, but maybe at the very end, we will, if we have time, if it doesn't go too late, I'll pull up a verse that has the word remnant, and we'll see what Aramaic says, because the letters themselves will tell you what that frequency and vibration is of the remnant. But yes, I would totally connect that to the great house. Those who have been roused awake to this, that are awake, that know that we are of the great house. Yes, totally. Very good question. So when we look at the Aramaic of the Kaf Yod, this is just, I find this so fascinating. So Kaf Yod, the middle two letters. In Hebrew, it means a burning and a brandishing. And we know that we're going through this cleansing fire, this purifying fire. We've shared that before about going to the pattern of the wilderness tabernacle is they had the brazen altar, that is taking our animalistic instincts, our lower beast ego nature, and putting it on the altar to burn away those lesser vibratory, controlling, manipulative frequencies that we need to get rid of, because that totally is separate. That doesn't bring forth oneness, unity. So we go through this burnishing and brandishing, and it's literally the word key. It's kaf yod. It's grasping a hold of the power. And kaf is spelled kaf pei. Pei is the mouth. So grasping a hold of the mouth, pei hey, that speaks forth revelation, opening our hand to receive that which brings us power, while we are going through this fire of purification. That's in the root of it. But look, oh my gosh, blow my mind. Look at what's on the suffix. Now, I know some of this stuff, I don't expect you guys to get excited as me. I know we have different personalities, and I apologize that I get over the top. It's just my vehicle design. I get super excited about this stuff, because when I see it, I'm like, this doesn't hardly ever happen. The lamed is added on the suffix side. The lamed is a representation of a teaching shepherd of light. Now, you will see the lamed on the prefix on mother's side all over the place, because that's how we have to start the process. Nobody comes to the Father but through me. Mother has to take you into that journey first to be able to show you that there's a spiritual path and help you tame your beast ego nature so that you can have access to Father, the more mature message, maturation. This has a lamed added on the suffix side. This is a teaching shepherd of Father. This is so rare to see this. This is so rare to see this. And this has to do with the great house. So the great house, aka remnant, Greg, the great house is made of those who have moved past mother's teachings, that are now in the place of teaching shepherds of Father's teaching. So even in English, if we connect to Paul saying that he wishes that he could give us more, that we need to move past the milk of the word. You ought to be teachers by now, but you're not there. He's talking about mother. But there's this whole other side that is only given through the oral tradition for those who would have the eyes to see it, that there's teaching shepherds of Father through the hidden teachings. And they have been hidden because they are part of, when you take a look at like Ken's teaching on the compass, going to the right-hand path of light allows you to illuminate the left-hand path that is dark, which just means hidden. We've created all these narratives. But when we go from the light into the hidden, into the dark, that's what this representation is. This is a teaching shepherd that has brought forth the light into the darkness and has now revealed it. That's so incredible. When I see that, it just gives me the shivers. When we take a look at Kaf Yod Lamed, in adding to this, it means to measure, to comprehend, and to contain. So yes, I will get you right there, Brandon. Hold on just a second. Let me finish this thought, and then I want you to, I love the fact that you guys can raise your hand. This is just such a polite meeting. This is awesome. So the Kaf Yod Lamed means to measure, to comprehend, and to contain. Well, what are we containing? The Hay is added. We're containing and being able to comprehend that we are made up of the great house. Those who are entering in as being teaching shepherds of the light and the dark. And right in the middle of this, it's Kaf Lamed that has power on the inside. And Kaf Lamed means bride, and Kaf Lamed means crown. So those who are going to receive their crown, that are the bride, that have been given power on the inside, that is what we are comprehending. That is what is being revealed to us. And it's translated as therefore and hence. There's so much missed. Oh my gosh. All right, Brandon, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so my question is, when you were talking about the darkness, and that
Yes.
just means the hidden.
Yes.
So they had the ones there are those that love the darkness, just seek out that hidden knowledge versus as coming through the gate of the shepherd that is Yeshua and the mother's teaching, the light and the obvious teaching. So that's really all that's talking about there.
Yes. Yes, because the light teaching is meant for, when we've shared before, spiritual maturation. If we were to, so if we were to adopt all of this and we were to bring it into a society where we are raising children, from the age of 0 to 12, we would be teaching mother's teaching. And that would get us to the place of accountability of the age of 12. And that would be considered, now you are at the place where you were spiritually able to enter into a set apart relationship as the AKA bride, the betrothed, which means be truth. So you would spend the first 12 years in a maturation process teaching the path of light, illumination. And what this is doing is that it's meant to tame the beast ego nature, because the beast ego nature in of itself, summarized as a golden rule, if we don't tame it, then we stay in the immature state, which is evil. We've already shared that it means a child or an infant, because they don't know what they are doing that is causing harm to people. So that's what happens with the beast ego nature if it's left unchecked. It harms people, and that's all evil is. So when we enter into the teachings of light, which allow us to be able to be mature and understand that we're not going to harm our other people, then we move into the maturation of from 12 into the future, which then gets us ready for the full maturation of being married. Now, if we really taught this would make such a huge difference in marriages, because everybody would have tamed their beast ego nature. They would have learned about how to work and function with one another. But the mature message is the one that takes us inwardly. This is where we do all the shadow work. This is where we realize that we may not be harming other people, but we can certainly harm ourselves, like I was with fear. And so when we deal with all of that, then it allows us to neutralize it so that we can enter into marriage in a place where we're not dealing with such emotional upheaval and all these narratives that are causing harm not only to ourselves, but to our potential spouse. But then we translate the language into a spiritual message. Can't take that spiritual message from a child from 0 to 12. They don't comprehend that. But when they start being set apart and entering into this be truth stage, then they realize that there's the journey on the inside. Then you can begin giving them the darker, deeper spiritual meanings because they can handle it. Can't do this stuff to a young. So when you translate that spiritually, so if we're talking about building a bridge to people, and I'm going back to Greg, what you said about being able to hold space for people that are going to be waking up, that aren't going to know what the heck's going on. Some of these things, you can't start talking to them about the hidden dark teachings if they're just waking up and realizing that they don't live in Kansas anymore. You know, you can't take them into to say, hey guys, by the way, you're the Elohim and you created all of this. You are God, by the way. You have made a mess of this and now we need to clean it up. There is no way to even attach yourself to that. You just can't do it. Talk about exactly. I'm watching your guys' reactions. I love it. They don't have an ability to connect to that. That's why we have to take them into the light first, then get them into the darker hidden teachings for them to realize who they are, because they are spiritually mature enough to handle it now. So hopefully that I saw you with the thumbs up, because again, being able to understand even in this word and comprehending that we are the great house. How do you tell that to somebody who is spiritually not in that place to receive it yet, that we make up the great house? We are all part of that. We are all one. You are the bride. You are receiving the crown. You have power from the inside. It will be revealed that you're part of the great house. Because we're meant, and there's a measuring of this as a container of this revelation that has come in, that we're to comprehend so that we can help people. Because this is adding of the teaching shepherd of dark, of the hidden. This is a very rare occurrence. So when I see this, I get super excited because it is so rare. Now, what would happen is if you go on the other side, I love this. I love this raising the hand. This is so cool. I haven't seen this before. It's so awesome. It makes me smile. So in the teaching shepherd of dark, there's a greater responsibility because you can't share these teachings unless you've known someone's gone through the way of light. You can go to the left-hand path first if you want. But what happens is you get into the dark of the dark, and then you get into the really dark. And then that means that there is no life and light in you. So it pulls you into the deeper, darker route of the things that we don't even really want to talk about because they are so dark. Does that make sense? Like they will take the power of the sacred languages and use it for service to self with no regards of how it affects anybody else. So if it takes life, they don't care. If it serves their purpose, that's the only reason why they're doing it. So you can take the left-hand path, but you already know that that polarity is never going to bring you back into neutrality. And then you're going to have a whole lot of stuff that you're going to have to deal with, because in the wise and foolish virgins, it talked about dealing with their bloodshed. What did you do? Did you take life or did you bring life? Because we all have to have an accounting for that. And we have to work through that. We have to work through the emotional side of it. And if you go to the left-hand path, the whole purpose of Mother is to pierce your heart. If you take the left-hand path without going to Mother first, you're going to skip your heart. And that's why they can do the things that they do in the dark, because they have no heart. They haven't been pierced. Does that make sense? Okay, so Renee, I'll start with you first and then we'll go to Brandon next.
Okay, well, it went a little bit off, but I was just wondering about the great house. Is that the same thing as Jesus saying, in my Father's house are many mansions? Like, are we the room, the mansion, and the big great house?
Yes, we are. Because, okay, so I'm really glad that you asked that. Like, I'm feeling this emotionally. I'm stirring right here. This is a beautiful thing. In the house, a mansion is an expanded house. It's not a small little tiny, what do they call those? The tiny living, what do they call those things that's been the craze? The little tiny houses.
Tiny house.
Yeah, we're not that. We're expanded, which makes us a mansion. So many mansions of expandedness, because house is bayit. Bayit means temple. We are the third temple. So by expanding us in our consciousness, now we have become a mansion. We're not in this little tiny constricted space. We are now expanded and we make up the great house. So yes, Absolutely. And it's beautiful dot connect there to see that, yeah, we have our individuality, but yet we make up one. And that's the mystery of the Aleph, because Aleph means one, but it means the many that make one. So the great house is the many mansions that make the one great house. It's incredible. Very, 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 I'm glad you added that. That's awesome. So that's a great segue.
If Jesus says, I go to prepare a place for you, now obviously that must mean something different too then. Because
Well,
we have
remember,
to
that is in English translation. Guaranteed there's a lot more there that has been left off the table than what we've seen, because I'm already sharing with you, we just went through 2 words here. And we can see how much that is not being assimilated through the English translations. Because again, it sounds like Yeshua is going to go and do the work for you. I'm just doing it. I'm making it place. I'm making it all there for you without us realizing that we have to participate and collaborate with the process of becoming. It's not instantaneous. We all know, anybody that is here right now knows how much work they've had to do to get to this place. Been a lot of soul searching, a tremendous amount. Brandon, did you have a question that you wanted to add here before we move on?
I didn't. I didn't realize that when you raise your hand, you also have to lower it. But I do like that she brought that up, because see, I had looked up a couple of years back that in my Father's house are many mansions, and even just looking it up in the concordance, I come to the conclusion that what that was saying then, without meeting before meeting you and Ken, was that within my Father are many states of being. You know, like then that would be going from the right hand to the left hand, or taking the left hand path before the right hand. But that was the conclusion I had gotten out of that verse through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, not knowing the language.
That's awesome. Well, what we're finding, I really thank you for adding that. What we're finding is much of what we are sharing, you guys already know. Like what we're bringing to the table, all we're doing is showing you that it's been written and it's been here as a place to be able to slip a foundation underneath these spiritual concepts as the Spirit's already brought you guys. And that's what I love about this, is I feel like the service that we're doing is to shore up the foundation, because when we get into the place where everything that can be shaken, which is going to be happening with this disclosure and everything in the age that we live in, we want to have a strong foundation. And I feel like that's the service that's being provided by uncovering the sacred languages, is for all of us to realize that that which the Spirit has been giving us, we can trust it to a greater degree now. Because many of these things, you guys already innately know this within you, because the Spirit's been talking to you guys about this. And so I love it. It's very thrilling for me personally when I hear people going, this is just confirming, this is confirming, because it should be. As Ken always says, it should happen through the Spirit first, and then the Word helps back it up. And so when you begin doing that, you can literally take all the English translations and you can spin it around and you can see what's not being said. Like for me now, if I go back to the Bible and read it in the English version, because I've been in the sacred languages so much, I already know what's underneath it, because then I can change that narrative going, oh, I know what the undercurrent is. I may not see it here because the English is not, but I know the undercurrent, and it validates so much more. So you guys are already doing that. That's what just blows me away. But it needs to be that way. Spirit needs to come first, because that's what's leading us into all truth.
I wanted to ask a question. I didn't know how to raise my hand on here. I'm not technical. But with we were speaking about in my Father's house are many mansions, and I just want you to elaborate on that, because the way that I saw it was the mansions are the many dimensions that we go in and out of, the windows and the doors that are open up to us to give us access into seeing one another as many members or many particles of Elohim that are all collaborating and coming together in unison as one.
I would agree with that. That's where I was saying with the mansions, the house has been expanded. So we're not talking a little tiny hut. We're not talking about a shanty or a shack or even a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. We're talking the expansion. And so, yes, that would totally incorporate that. Ken, did you want to pop in here? Hello? Yeah. Come on in. If you want to come on in, the water's fine. Oh. Ken opens the door and he peeks his head in and I'm like, oh, you want to come in? So I would totally agree with that. In taking that to adding as an and, James, I would agree with that. Because as we are moving up dimensionally, it is really expanding our ability. That's why our houses are expanding, that we begin to see each other in a different narrative, in a different way, in a different perspective as we're all expanding. Let me shift that on over so I can't. There we go. There's my hubby.
Hello, hello.
Did that help answer that for you, James?
Oh, yes.
So I'm glad that you
it-
brought that up, because I do agree with that as an and, bringing that into the expanded of what the mansions are. Totally.
And there is a plan and a purpose that unfortunately is hidden to most, but for those that it's being revealed to, we can see a light that's being shed, that it really, it moves this mysterious level into plain sight.
And really the mysterious level is the revealing of who we are.
Right. The mystery is you.
That's why when I was sharing before about how you can't take some of these teachings, which would be the hidden teachings for the spiritually mature, and giving them to somebody that hasn't gone through the spiritual maturation purpose yet. They haven't gone through the spiritual maturation walk yet enough for them to realize that the hidden is truly the revealing of who they truly are. And so here's the difficulty. If you take the left-hand path without having the right-hand path, you will never have it illuminated to you of who you are. Because remember, in the beginning, Chava was taken out of mankind. Chava is the word Eve. And Chava means life, and it has a hey on the end of it. It's ket vav hey. So it's the life that is connected to the revealing. In other words, what we are seeking when we go into the hidden, into the dark, is the revealing of that which was taken out of us, which is the revealing of the trueness of ourselves in becoming our higher selves. It's what we're searching and hunting for, but we don't realize that's what it is until we get to that place of excavation and going into the hidden to realize that the hidden is really the revealed us. And we take our light into it to be able to have that revealed. And that's a process. I mean, it's very difficult to try to translate this on the main stage to people, because if you're speaking to a room of 100 people, it's very hard to gauge how many are spiritually in the place that they can receive this versus those that aren't. And really, you can only share to the level of and I'm not saying this as judging people. I'm saying this as an is statement. You only can share at the level of where the person is in the least level of spiritual maturation. So if there is one person that doesn't even get the basics of the milk teaching, you can't go beyond the milk teaching to teach those who are spiritually mature. You have to meet them at the level of where they are at, because the responsibility is not the single, it is taking all of us, because collectively we raise together. And so our job is to meet where that person is in the least level, to begin to catch them up to speed through steps. And that makes it incredibly difficult for people who are at the place where they're ready to cross over into those hidden elements to have to wait for the ones. But that also lets us know where our heart condition is, because our heart condition should be for the least of these. Meaning we need to help them catch up to speed. And that's why when Greg was saying holding a space for those people that are just being awakened from their slumber, to be able to help them quickly be caught up to speed, instead of sharing with them these high lofty concepts that they're just not ready for. You talk about blowing them up. We don't want to blow them up. I mean, when the full revealing happens, it's going to happen already. And we're hoping that we're catching them up quickly so that it's not going to catch them totally off guard. But there's a whole lot that are still going to be totally caught off guard.
But the whole process, like I said before, the revelation of the dark is solely dependent on your journey into the light.
Yeah.
Because it reveals itself. They're one and the same, but they're only divided to draw you into the dark. Again, if I was to say that on any other platform than this, it's like, wow, he's talking mysterious levels that is esoteric, that is deemed as wicked or evil. Well, again, it's the same as an adversary is but a friend. If I can see it in the innocence of intention, it is simply a mode into a direction for the ultimate responsibility of self-gain or self-development or the position of intention. It's all the same language, but it can only be revealed incrementally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're a measure of summation based on our proximity to what we have deemed and defined to be source. There's an organicness of innocence in seeking the dark, and we didn't even know until it revealed itself. That's the organicness of it. We deemed ourselves as light workers, you know, because that seemed to be more of the political correct approach when we were in our really naivety of seeking. But by no means do we seek the dark for the purpose of what is hidden. It's not that thing. It reveals itself in the organicness of seeking innocence. And that's the mystery. It's like, oh my goodness, its beauty and essence of light reveals itself from the shadows. As you work on your own shadows, light then comes forward. And it's very, very pure, and it's very innocent in its origin. Of course it is, because it's source origin. But yes, absolutely correct. It's just a different way to see it, versus separating out in duality and living in that this is that and this is this, right? It's realizing that there's a process and a means that reveals all.
So we're coming off of the great house, and we were talking about that, the bride who will be crowned, that has been given power from source on the inside, that will be revealed as the great house. Then we moved into the Dalet Lamed Aleph. So this is translated as no and not. But these are one of those words that in duality, we have no and yes, right? They're dual, yes and no. But when we neutralize them, we realize that there is no yes, or there is no yes and there is no no. They just are. It is. So when we're looking into making this into oneness, what is this telling us? Well, we have to be instructed in the way of oneness. That's why it's a Lamed Aleph. So in other words, if you are behaving in a way that is not unifying, you need to be taught in the way of oneness, because this is a process of spiritual maturation. Because the Lamed's whole purpose of the Lamed is to goad and urge and incite you and instruct you as one having the staff of authority as a shepherd's crook, to try to bring you back around into the oneness authority and unity. Because we've already discussed that the word evil is those who are the ones that are hurting other people, that they're the spiritually immature. They're the children that haven't grown up, realizing that when they harm other people, they're actually harming themselves, as we're all harming one another, because we're all one. So when it says no or not, it means you just need to be instructed in the way of one. And the Dalet has been added in the front, which is the door. It's the door that needs to be opened up to you so you can go into the inward man, where instruction really is meant for. Because the Lamed is actually the first letter of the Hebrew word leb, which is heart. And it means authority, bet, inside. So the authority inside is coming from a shepherd that is teaching you through having the staff of authority, because they've already been instructed. So they're going to be teaching you the way so that you can be delivered of what? Well, Dalet Lamed, the first two letters, I'm trying to highlight them and it's wanting to do the whole word, got to go slower, means a dangling, weak or thin, lean, needy, poor man, and weaker. So this process, for those who are in that place, there's something that's dangling that means that we need to be attached to. And it's beautiful, because when you look at the word, the letter Aleph, there's a yod on top and there's a yod on bottom and there's a vav right in the middle. And that's what literally makes up this symbol right here. It's an upper yod. Come on, let's highlight. There we go. There's an upper yod and a lower yod. There's a higher vision and there's a lower vision. And then there's a vav in the middle, and vav means to connect. So you take the lower vision of man and the higher vision of God, and you connect the two together so that they can become one. That's literally the representation of the Aleph. And so if you don't know that, that is what makes you weak as the weaker man, because you're not realizing that the unity is in the power of becoming one, and you need to be instructed in that. And so that, I mean, it seems like it's a nothing word, no and not, and it seems like it's pretty cut and dry until you see what's really being said, because the Dalet was added. The root of this is Lamed Aleph. The Dalet was added, which then shows that weak nature, that something needs to be attached to here, and we're needing to get into that oneness unity instead of being divided. because division is never going to bring forth unification. And then this leads us to the very next word. This is so amazing when I see this stuff. It just blows me away. This word, the root of it is yada, to know. So not know doesn't mean that you're not going to know. It means that you need the instructions. You're weak and feeble. You're the poor man. You need to enter the door of the inward man to have the instruction at the heart level that we're all one. And then it leads you into know, known, and recognize. Wow! How amazing is that? So this means that it's going to be made evident. So where did my little, where's the, I need to see the, I went too far. There we go. Let me see if I can drop this down a little bit so we can see it better. So the root of this word, so that we can see what's being added to it, the root of this word is Yod, Dalet, Ayin, the 3 letters, and then on the end of it is Yod, Nun. So when we take a look at the definition of what this is in more depth, because again, the Peshitta put know, known, and recognize, but there's more definitions into this word. To know, realize, to understand, to be made aware, make known, evident, to be evident, inform, be well known, recognize, and acknowledge. So there's a lot more here than just knowing and recognizing. It's something that's going to be made very evident of. It's going to be seen, recognized, and acknowledged. This is not, see, the way that we've been seeing yada before is that this is personal experiential knowledge here, which is important because individually we need to know this. This is experiential knowledge. You would know this as gnosis in Greek. Da'at in Hebrew is the fullness of the hidden experiential knowledge. But there's going to be something that happened that is going to be made evident. And what is it being made evident? This is so profound when I see this. What's shown, what's hidden in here is the last 3 letters makes the word ayin, which means eye, to see. And yad is the how you spell the symbol yod, and it literally means the work and deed of the hand that sees. So those who have gone through the instruction of oneness understand, comprehend, are made aware of that they have the ability because they see, and it will be made evident that they know this because they were instructed in the way of oneness. So everything that they're doing through the work and deed of their hand because they can see is meant to bring in oneness unity. I just love that. It's like, it's right there. Yod, Ein, the hand and work. The power, means, and direction because you can see. So we've gotten power that has been given to those who give. They go through the door of the inward man where they are given the ability to see on the inside, the fountain, the spring of life that is within them so they can deliver themselves from the fallen flesh. And they are going to be given power from the Father in order to deal with their fallen flesh. Oh my gosh, how amazing. Because then that's what gives them the ability to do what they need to do through the work and the deed of their hand. Does that make sense? It's like as soon as you can see it, you've been taught and instructed in the way of oneness, then therefore everything that you do by the work and deed of your hand is to foster oneness unity. Not to divide, not to separate, but everything is to draw in. I love that. And so that is the divine feminine portion that is trying to bring us into this place of the work and deed that we do because we can see, because it comes from a place of the divine feminine, that sacred feminine, that there's that softer side of spirit that knows what to do with this to make it happen. But in the linear form, to know, he knew, learned to know, he perceived, observed, there's a much more of that external concept versus making it internal. Going from the paternal concept to the maternal, or the maternal to the paternal, is unifying both sides. Taking the work of what the masculine has built and bringing in the feminine energy, because now we can see the need for both to make it happen, and it's going to be evident, those who were able to unify it into one. You guys tracking with that? because the word prior was the door of instruction that leads us to oneness unity. And then we get into this word, that it will be evident and it will be known that they were able to unify it, because that which they do will be seen as bringing forth oneness unity.
Can I say something on that word? Can you
Yeah.
just show the word?
Yeah. Let me move my screen here a little bit.
I'm a picture person, and when I see words, I always see pictures, and I'll just share a picture of this word because it's already stating with the ayin in the heart of that being the fountain, there's already a depth established here. Now this is personal as well as is corporate, that this is like a picture, like the well is already within each and every one of us. But there has to be, unfortunately, there's a manual progression to dipping the bucket into the well. So there is a well within us, is what this word is saying. It's in every one of us. If you can see this word in the full value of what it is, there is a depth beyond depth, because this is the fountain that's tethered to the tree in the garden. It's the same connective language of oneness, of returning back to a state as this never even was an experience, because you become the experience. But the only way to do that is to continually dip the bucket in your own well. And so it's just a progression of the hand, and because the door really is a well in itself. It is actually in the doll, that it actually is an approach to dangling a bucket to extract out a depth that is contained, that goes down deep to a source.
In order to deliver yourself.
This is all based on self-deliverance.
Yep.
So
exactly.
this depth is within every one of us. The hand is put onto the door, which is the crank for the bucket. If there's a willingness to lower the bucket, then there's the ability to draw out, which is already innate within us all. That is connecting the right and the left hand while we're in this fallen flesh, or in this place of propagation, which is seed line, which is oneness, but it's still connected to family.
Absolutely. So when you take a look, even just go further, because we're talking about the ayin and the fountain. So ayin, okay, so we have shared with this before. I'm going to share it again, just inculcation. Every Hebrew symbol is made up of other Hebrew symbols. So unlike English, an A is an A, B is B, C is C. Not so with Hebrew. The letter ayin, the symbol ayin, is made up of ayin, yod, nun. So those frequencies of those three letters are actually hidden behind the individual frequency. Does that make sense? So it's very different. That's why there's so much information that is processed at light speed when people are trained to see this way through the oral tradition of how to read the codes. When you look at that, when I look at that letter symbol, I already know everything that's contained within it. I know it's an ayin, yod, nun. So I know what is being in there. And so ayin is spelled ayin, yod, nun. The yod is yod, dalet. The nun is nun, vav, nun. So all of that is contained within this one symbol. So what I did is I decided to show you guys what ayin, yod, nun is, so that we can drill down, because it is the center of this word. It is at the heart of this word, of what is being said. And it means to look carefully at, to consider, and to see, to think over, to meditate, to deliberate, to balance exactly, and to weigh carefully. He read, he looked up, a spring and a fountain, and it literally means the eye of water. That is so profound. I mean, we already know that the vitreous fluid of the eye, there's a lot of water that's in it. But when you look at the root of this word, to know, to recognize, to be made known, and to be evident, it is going to be evident that there are those that looked at carefully and considered before they did anything. They meditated upon it, and they deliberated about it, and they balanced exactly. What did they do? They balanced exactly in the system of duality between both in the system, to bring it together through experiential knowledge into one, because they were instructed in that way. So everything that they are doing, they went through the process of carefully considering it before they did it, to make sure that it would bring forth oneness, unity, that it wouldn't separate. That is phenomenal. And it'll be made evident that they did this. And the other thing I wanted to also show, another hidden word that's in here, and this makes a lot more sense when you consider it. Dalet Yod Nun, we have the ayin, it's in the middle, but Dalet Yod Nun means judge. So when my husband has said many times, and we say that it's an inside job, this is self-adjudication. Self-adjudication is coming from the ability to see on the inside of what we need to self-adjudicate. So the word judge is in here. And judge, I love this, judge through the inward eye. So if you want to talk about the pineal gland, judging from the inward eye, because this is our spiritual connection, this is what we're judging ourselves on the inside, because judging is only meant to be an internal job. If you're in the system of duality and you're judging externally, then you're playing the game of duality and you're attaching to narratives. But as soon as you turn the chair inwardly and you begin going from the judge of the inward eye, you're getting in spiritual information for you to be able to self-adjudicate and to reorient yourself within the system of duality so you can rise up and out of it. Yeah.
When you were speaking about the third eye, is that the same thing that is speaking in chapter 32 of Genesis, when Jacob was in the
Yes.
place of Peniel,
Yes.
and then it said Peniel.
Yes.
It changed the form of the word, so it was him looking outwardly, then he projected and saw inwardly.
Yes,
from
because
the eye.
Paniel, if you did it through the Pei, Nun, Yod, Aleph, Lamed, that would be Paniel. That would be the pineal. That's how you would spell it. That means there's the inward Yod. So there was a vision placed with inside. And when it changed to Panuel, whenever there's a Yod, this is a side digression, but this is very important to connect to this. Whenever a Yod is added, this means there's a vision that is given to you, which is the work and deed of your hand. But the next morphing is supposed to be a vav right after it. In other words, vision is going to be given to you so you can see the work and deed of your hand, but then you need to vav it. You need to connect to it. So when it morphed from Paniel to Panuel was because Jacob saw this vision that was being given to him, and in his heart, he connected to it. So it faced and appeared to him as a revelation of the spiritual path that he connected within his heart, which then became the strong teachings to help instruct him so that then he could see not only the face of God, but become the face of God himself. So,
okay,
yes,
yeah, that's
it did
good. I was
change.
just studying that this
Yeah.
morning, so it was relevant to what
Yep.
was being said.
So he
was
had
about the
to,
pineal gland.
yep. So he had to connect to the vision to make it manifest by connecting to it within his heart. If we don't have a heart change, this is why when we were talking about the left-hand path, if you don't connect it to the heart, you are never going to change your being. The heart is the root of everything. It's literally the center. It is the servant candle of the menorah of our chakra system that serves the upper and the lower. And if you skip it, you will never change. And that's why Jacob had to have a change of heart. That's why he had to face-to-face interaction, is because he had to have a change of heart. He had to have something presented to him. He had to wrestle it so he could become it. Changed his nature, changed his name, changed his frequency. So when we finish this out in dealing with judging, it's important, and I've shared this on many teachings, but the job of a judge, so for self-adjudication, is a judge is one who restores life. So if we are going to have life abundantly, we need to self-adjudicate because it's restoring life. Again, Chava was pulled out of mankind. Life, the mother of all living, was pulled out of mankind. We're self-adjudicating to find life, to restore it back into mankind so that mankind becomes one blood, Adam, Aleph, Dam, one blood that has life in it. Right now, if we keep dividing and we haven't found the mother of all living, if we haven't found Chava, if we haven't found that which brings and restores life to us, connecting at the heart level that brings revelation, we are going to be divided. And so the job of judge is to bring a pleasant and righteous life to the people, starting with us. It is the door to life. And that's why I wanted to bring that in, because literally the word judge is in there, judging through the eye within for our spiritual path. Did you have something to say? What was that, James?
Would that also be in reference to when we talk about the pineal gland? Is that also the promised land that Moses was seeking from that was already within us? That we were that land of promise?
What he saw expanded consciousness in the fullness of our being. And so what ended up happening was he couldn't translate it to the people because they weren't spiritually ready for that message yet. So when they were I shared with this the other day about how the different words about conquering, like going over and trying to conquer a people and take their land instead of accepting the inheritance for which has been placed inside of us, that like what they're literally doing in the land of Israel right now, trying to take the land from the Palestinians, is going to bring heartache and chaos. And that was, I think, something shared a couple days ago. I don't remember. Regina, I think we're talking about it. Maybe it was one that I did. I don't remember. I go over so many verses, I can't always keep it in track of which one it was. But there was another word that was showing the spiritual path. That was the inheritance, not land, not pushing out the inhabitants and saying, this is my inheritance. Because the inheritance that Moshe saw was the elevated consciousness, expanded consciousness going up, not crossing over into the same. I don't want to cross over into the same, because crossing over in the same is in the system of duality. I want to rise up out of it. And that's what Moses saw. That's what Moshe saw. But the people were not ready for it yet. And we are just now getting into the place that the people are ready for it. It's been 5,000 years and they haven't been ready for it until now, because the energies haven't supported it. We needed to have the divine feminine to start making its way back, because the divine feminine was shut out. And if you look into historical records of the King Josiah, he's the one that obliterated the goddess Asherah, took her out. And ever since then, the divine feminine within the Hebrew movements, within the Hebrew concepts, within the Hebrew language has been decimated until now. And it was interesting because I saw something, and I want to finish this out too. I'm doing exactly what I didn't want to do, but that's okay. It's good dot connecting. That Yeshua's name, his literal name, has a hey on the end, which is already feminine in nature. Whenever the hey is added on the suffix side, it's feminine. So Yeshua came in the form of mother to help bring the divine feminine back. And that was 2,000 years ago. And we're just now really beginning to receive that 2,000 years later. So what we moved into, from moving into this place of the work and the deed of the hand, those who see the oneness unity, now we get into the word ANTUN. This is a word that is so deeply profound. I've shared this a couple of months ago when I was sharing it with Regina, because what the Spirit was showing with this was so, I mean, I was moved. I was so moved. And if you can grasp a hold of what is said in this word, translated as thou, it's one of those that you would just skip over, kind of like you, me, thou, this, you would just skip over it. But when you see the richness of what ANTUN means, this is to let you know what's going on here. We have the word Natan, and Natan in its root is nun tav nun. Natan means to give. And this word to give is a huge, huge word, because what are we being given? There's a spiritual path that is given to us through covenant while we are in the lower flesh world, which is in the place of the matrix. But it is being given to those at where? The heart level. Because right in the inside of this word, where source is, source, Abba, is the piercing of the heart, the center of our being. So what is being given to us is given to those who have a pierced heart, that have connected to source, to Abba, in the center of our being, where our heart chakra has been activated into the place of love. And what is being given to us is the oneness unity that is presented by Father, or by Mother. Mother is giving us, so Yeshua, in a representation of Mother, came to give us at the heart level that which was going to do this. Aleph Nun Tav. This is the word, because remember, Aleph Tav is the summary of all the letters of the Hebrew and Aramaic alphabet that make up the words of the sacred writings. This is the word made flesh. That's why the Nun is there. The Nun is connected to our flesh. It is the work and the activity of what we do in the flesh that creates heirs and progeny and perpetuity. So this is telling us that the mother that came, that Yeshua came to give the bride, those who were betrothed to be truth, those who would connect at their heart level to Abba, what they need to become the Word made flesh, just like him. This is an extremely important word that you would have no idea the connotation. Because if you don't know the Hebrew sacred wedding, you don't understand the matan gift that the bridegroom gives the bride until the way of the wedding. Because what is she doing before the wedding? She's making her garments for the day of the wedding. The wedding is not being married to Yeshua. It is being married to ourselves and uniting the divine feminine and the masculine together. The words made flesh is our garments of our being, of changing our being into what we were sharing with before in the wise and foolish virgins. It was saying taking their vessels of light, and it was garments of light. This is what is giving us the ability to change our flesh into garments of light by being the Word made flesh. Connect it to John 1:1.
Is that a strong top?
Yeah, and that's a strong tav. So what this is a two tavs. Okay, so connect this. Thank you. Two tavs that have become one. So remember in the beginning here were those twin tavs.
One's hidden. I mean, in what we just looked at, I could tell that it was there. I couldn't see.
So the twin tavs have now been made one. Right here. Mm-hmm. That dagesh in the middle means it's called a strong dagesh. It's meaning that there's two tavs that have become one. So if you were to pronounce this, you would have that tav sound twice. You would say it and then say it. So it would be ANTUN, ANTUN. You only see one, but there's two there. So this is, and every time you see this word written in scripture, it's written like this. The twin covenants that have become one, this is the words that have become flesh. And that's why it has the fallen noon in the bottom, because it's talking about your flesh suit, your earth suit in the matrix. This is the gift, the matan gift that was given by that which came to present the way of one for those who would connect at their heart level, because it's all about love and it's about maturation and enjoining the two to become one.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
Because that strong tav is there, it's also in the representation of Yeshua, just so we can fill up his role, is that he can only give, or he only gave a measure that, like Carrie was sharing earlier, he was walking in his own level of congregation. He could only share. He didn't really have the business of sharing the Father on the level that I'm sure he would have liked to, because no one would have comprehended. He had to dole out Mother first to rear up so people could comprehend Father. But make no mistake, he was Mother and Father as one. He simply was showing a means to the purpose. If one was means and Mother means, Father purpose. But in this word, having the strong tav there, that is also the definition of the spelling of tav, that is a mark and a sign. That would be what the final 22nd letter is spelled tav vav. So this mark that is in there that you can't see the other tav, but it is a strong dagesh, would say this is Mother and Father's mark. Yes. This oneness of being risen from a lesser nature or from a fleshly, this one has journeyed correctly through Mother's maturation to be sealed with the mark of Father. This would be a well done. This would be a unity, a completed sewing together and knitting together of Mother and Father.
Absolutely. So this is a very huge word. And I do have a PDF. If you guys go back on the playlist or go back into our archive history, and I don't remember, I'll have to think where it's at, but on one of the videos I talk about it, and it says ANTUN in the description. So if you can search and put in ANTUN, it takes me a moment because I'm so used to saying the Hebrew letters. I'm like, what's the English ones? ANTUN. If you type that in, it'll take you to a video, and in the video in the description box, I have a PDF of all the occurrences of ANTUN. So if you want to go and look at this actual, the verses in the New Testament, because it doesn't show up in the Old Testament, it only shows up in the New Testament, which makes sense because Yeshua came to be able to show us this, and he had to represent it. So this is what he brought to us, those who are going to be set apart as the betrothed, to be truth, to be one. So that's really where that came from. And it's such a huge word. I don't like to skip over it because of the gift that it is to bring to us to be able to make that happen.
Well, that thou is you.
It is. I
That-
mean, it's thou,
it's
you, pointing,
the-
you.
The judge is you.
You.
The reward is the marriage of mother and father within you.
Making your wedding garments for the day of the unison of the two becoming one flesh.
Again,
So incredible.
never forget that you're looking in a mirror, or the potentiality of a mirror.
Making it personal.
Yeah, you gotta make it personal.
So we only have a few more words. I've been trying. There's just so much information here. So when it says that you don't know the day nor the hour, so some of this I don't have to go into detail because we have the no and the not, and we've already explained that. But look at the day. This is really fascinating, guys, because day is usually Yod Vav Mem. And that would be the day of power where you're connected to your heart level while you're in the waters of chaos. That's what the root of this would be. But look at what has been added. The Lamed has been added to the front, and the Aleph. They have both been added, the Lamed and the Aleph. So this is instruction. So when it says the day, you and the day, this is the revealing of the teachers of light that have been instructed, that have entered into oneness unity, because the Aleph has been added on the suffix side. So the day of the revealing of the teaching shepherds that have actually become the instruction is going to be the day of the revealing, and Mem Aleph on the end means 100. So those who have become as a mother in the earth, as a teaching shepherd of mother, that know how to teach the milk of the word, that know how to present the vision of becoming so people can connect to it, to their heart level when they're in the waters of chaos. So think about what we're entering into right now with, what is it? I keep losing it. The revealing, they're talking about the alien agenda. Disclosure. So when we enter into this place of disclosuring so much, there's going to be a lot of chaos. That's why the teaching shepherds of light must be here to help assist those that are going to be caught in the chaos, so that they can realize that they need to enter into oneness maturity. And that is the 100-fold measure. 30, 60, 100. This is the 100-fold measure. But what's beautiful about this, it also means 1,000. So dependent upon the level of light that you have put within you, you either going to have 1,000-fold measure or 100-fold measure, dependent on your maturation. But these teaching shepherds of light have to be here. And this means it's not just day, it's day, time, and year. Day, time, and year. So could it be that we are in the year of the disclosure, the year of the revealing, where the teaching shepherds of light will be revealed, teaching the way of one? I'm just throwing that out there. I know what I feel like I believe on the inside, but what is this saying? There's a day, a time, and a year that this is happening for those, Hey Vav, that would have this revelation and connect to it, that then move into, they've already connected with mother in humility. They went through the instructions into the way of one. This is the same gematria for the word that means to be strong. To be strong, to be healthy, sound. Their body is sound. Their body is now sound, because they're walking around in humility as mother. They've connected to mother. They went through the instruction in the way of one because the revelation came and they connected to it. So they have meekness and they have humility. And then when it says our time and moment, we have another added Lamed. This is really profound because we had the Lamed of father and we have the Lamed of mother. We have both being presented here. And it's talking about those who are being instructed in the way of one will know the day and the hour, because the instruction is coming to bring forth in the time of fire. We are in some really dense stuff right now. We have been all under this purifying fire that is meant to give us the eye to see the time, Aleph Tav, to see the time that we are in order to bring forth oneness, unity. So I am saying that what I am seeing through here, again, I'm not telling you guys, I'm just sharing my revelation of what I'm seeing right here, is that the time is when you recognize that the teaching shepherds have come in during the time of the greatest fire that we've ever gone through, so that we would recognize the time to establish oneness, unity. The teaching instructors of light are coming on the scene in the time of greatest fire, in the time that is being revealed that we need oneness, unity. And I love this. Sheen Ayin Hey, or Sheen
Ayin Tov.
No. Sheen Ayin. Okay. Try to be nice. Okay. Here's another thing that you guys need to be made aware of. If you have a Tav Aleph added on the suffix side, if you have this, that means the revelation already came, because whenever a Tav is put in place, that means you have matched the frequency because the revelation came to you and you became it. Does that make sense? So the revelation comes to you, you grasp a hold of it, you do something with it, and you become the frequency of it. You cannot have a Tav without having the Hey prior.
Mm-hmm.
The revelation has to come first, because it doesn't do any good. You can't change unless a revelation comes to you that you can grab a hold of it and manifest it. So the Tav shows that the manifestation has been made complete, but the revelation had to come first, which is the whole point of why the teaching shepherd comes. As a teaching shepherd of Mother, her job is to be able to take you into the revelation of Father if you're mature enough and you're ready for the dark hidden teachings that have been kept away from the spiritually immature. So this Tav is already showing that the revelation came. So Sheen Ein Hey means to gaze at, to look about, to care for, to behold, to look for. That means that you get into the place of spiritual maturation, that you're looking for something else because the milk of the word is no longer sustaining you, and you know that there's something else out there. Because the milk of the word is only going to take you so far spiritually. And then you're going to be longing and looking for something else. Where is it? I know there's something else. I haven't arrived yet because I am still thirsting. I am still hungering. I haven't been satiated. And this word is telling you that in the time of fire, into the greatest time of fire and purification that you're going to, you are going to have the eyes to begin to look for and to see what is necessary that is going to bring forth favor in your life. Or duality, you're going to turn away from it. This is completely dependent upon where you are at and what the Spirit is taking you in, because some people spiritually aren't ready to go into the hidden yet because there's too many unknowns. Ken and I have been talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Familiarity is a place that a lot of us like to stay because it feels safe. But when everything is being shook, when we are in the fire, we are looking for a firm foundation, and that which isn't firm is going to shake. And that's the hour, and literally the hour, time, and moment happens when the greatest fire comes.
This word is actually an Elijah moment, that it's similar, that if you can see me when the fiery tornado comes, if you don't break gaze or break your stance, if you just watch me, then there's a double anointing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's still that look away or be steadfast. Because
Elijah and Elisha, yep.
The fire
exactly.
of knowing is really the revealing of love, of knowing the love of one. This is
Mhm.
the teaching of what this word is saying.
Yeah.
The teaching of fire, if it's embraced correctly, it doesn't need to be awkward. It just needs to be what it needs to be, depending on where we are. But the teaching of the fire, of the knowing of love, is really the revealing of oneself.
Yep. And so Ken just took you through those 4 letters. And it's interesting too, because when we take a look at this, it also means time, a short while, or in a moment. And Ein Tov, right in the middle of this, means now, at present, and time. And the fullness of it means at the time, the shortest period of time. So what I find so fascinating is that this whole thing at the beginning says that no man is be awake and aware, because no man's going to know the day or the hour. But that's not what it looks like here to me. Based upon what I'm seeing is that those that are recognizing the time that we will live in, that it's a very short period of time, that it's been compressed and shortened, are going to recognize the time, their day of visitation, when teaching shepherds would come on the scene presenting the oneness message. Ken and I are just sharing with you what's in the languages. There have been many people out there that have been bringing forth this oneness message for a long time. We're not anybody special. We're just showing you what the Father's shown us through the Word to help back up and support those who have been the forerunners to this message, because this message has gone out for a while. But we're in that condensed time now, in the greatest amount of fire, in the greatest amount of division, to bring forth unification. So that is the way I'm seeing this whole thing. So we will know and we will recognize because of where we're at in the timeline. Because I don't know about you, but I never thought I would ever see anything like 2020. That was just nuts. And leading up to that, we've been in fire for a while now. And so now I think it's come as a catalyst to say, you know what, we're done with this. We're done of the division. It's time to seek unification. It's time to stop dividing, because that's how they conquer us. We've created the narratives. We've played both sides. So in order to fix it, we need to become the oneness unity, to say we're done playing our own games. We're done on the chessboard. We're done manipulating both sides. We want to rise above it, because we know that love is the highest calling. I saw something the other day that someone I had posted about unconditional love. That love, somebody was asking about what love is. And my first response was, well, love is not sustainable unless it's unconditional love. But in reality, once we rise above the dualistic nature, we won't be comparing love, conditioned love, with unconditional love. It will only be one love. Because we won't be dual in nature. We won't be seeing it differently. We won't have love with conditions, because unconditional love is truly one love. And that's what we're moving into. So I'm opening it up now, unless you have anything else to say. If you guys have comments, please, I am good to go. I'm good to go for about another 25 minutes. So please, whatever you're seeing, sharing, I'd love to hear from you. And so would Ken.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this. Everything about this is showing us to find our own center. Regardless of where we all are in the process, in the steps of maturation, the message is consistent in its consistency to say, seek your own center. Whatever that looks like individually, it starts individual before we can take it corporately. We have no business taking it anywhere unless we're worked on our own center. That's why we're sharing this, is for the opportunity to put aside what is unnecessary, to put aside, to break free of a programmed agenda. And I don't see it as duality. I simply see it as a spectator. And by no means am I a coward running from anything, but yet I found my center. And so therefore I'm fortifying my stand in my own center. And so there really, I see it from a position that really distances me from what they have deemed to be a choice, or a limited perspective that only grants this or that. No, I don't see that. I don't connect with that anymore. At one time I did, but I no longer see that. It's something is moved. Mother is a frequency, as father is a frequency. The words are frequency, and I'm extrapolating out a frequency to see first at it, but then I want to be as them, because that's what they're calling, because they are center that has really fractaled out. They're saying, look at me, I am one center. I'm fractaled into many parts, but make no mistake, I still represent as one. And it's calling us into that oneness unity of self-awareness. So whatever that may be in your own fractals, and whatever it may be in your own disassociation from whatever it may be, from misappropriation of incorrect parenting, or sibling rivalry, or whatevers and whatevers and whatevers, find your center. This whole message is about, first of all, loving yourself.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
a way that goes beyond really explanation. When I say, I'm not saying that as just a common throw out thing. I mean, really, in the definition, we don't know what love is: the experience of finding truly a reflection in the mirror, that you see oneness, no longer thinking in dual hemispheres of separation. It is moving well beyond that. And all honesty, I don't even really truly, that hasn't happened yet. I believe people talk about that, but in all honesty, you'll know, because these people will be highly illuminated, and that's what's coming in. But there has to be a preparatory work first that establishes a frequency of similitude and likeness. This is what's happening. This is the opportunity we've been granted right now, to become a frequency that has moved into maturation, that is now qualified to be called and become the nature of one completed.
That's awesome. I agree.
That is a high order. That is a
High
really,
benchmark.
like that. My heart quivers a little bit in even sharing the revelation of what we're seeing. And so,
Well, I feel that.
you know,
I feel that.
yeah, I can feel it in my, I want it to be innocent. I want it to be true. That's my heart. And humanity is seeking something that they don't even know what they're seeking. That's the cry.
Yeah.
They're all calling for something, but they don't know what they're calling for.
It's interesting, because even the root of Yeshua's name, Shua, means to cry out for help.
Yet we get offended by words when we say certain black or magic or things like this, and going, in its pureness and innocence, it is simply a mystery that needs to be revealed. And it's the reflection in the mirror. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's just, is there a willingness to walk in the desire of the intention? There is a wish for humanity to arise to something that has not yet been seen. The measure of duality coming into one straight line. No longer deceived with this is or that. It just simply is. And there you are, standing there gazing at something. You're like, wow, I'm so far away from it, but yet here I am in a measure of, it's a gift. It is truly a gift, and very few people can see this. It's a pleasure and an honor to share this when I watch Carrie share this, but we really need to know what we're seeing, and the opportunity is Natan, mother and father within us. There's an opportunity for them to be knit back together. It's the most amazing love story.
I know.
They knew exactly what they were doing. The most ultimate sacrifice of a mother and father component, knowing that they had to separate for the purpose of the experience. But don't make the mistake, they fully are defined as love. And the sacrifice was a willingness to separate so they would find one another again. That is within you. The oneness of mother and father is contained within every vessel and every face that I'm looking at right now. And that is a gift and an opportunity that is about to present itself in a measure. And that's truly exciting for what's about to come on the earth, because these ones that are coming on the earth will be a representation of mother and father as one, properly adjudicated in their own self-deliverance of the representation that was given through Yeshua. Let's make that clear. But these are ones that have self-delivered through maturation. Truly beautiful.
Yeah, the way you said that. Because really the external is a picture of us, that we were divided.
Yes. That's the
So
love story.
you can look at Yod He Vav He, pre-incarnate Yeshua, Sophia, that were divided to be able to bring forth this message, but it's really a story about us, that we've been divided within. And we haven't even known it. We've been like in this ignorance, living out these roles that we play and masks that we wear, and we didn't even realize that we are divided. We've been divided within us, and that's why everything is manifesting on the outside in the system of duality, because we haven't found it within us first. And so I'm emotional because just the way you worded it is like it sunk a little bit deeper today, that the love story is about us, and it's becoming that oneness on the inside where we fall in love with our first love. That we're no longer divided, that we were divided for experience only, but maturation is the day when we come back together universally into that one love, into that single entity as one soul that's never been fractured. Never been fractured in duality for experience, the tohu and the bohu and the waters from above and the waters below. It's literally bringing everything into the spiritual maturation of one love. And that's why we have to find it in here first. And so as soon as we find it within here first, and we can knit everything back together into oneness of mother and father, masculine and feminine inside of us, is the sooner that we can begin manifesting it externally. Hence why everything has the olive, because no matter what we're doing, it affects everyone. Our actions, our words, our deeds affect the collective. And so by taking responsibility within us first, we're affecting all of us.
Yeah. Make no mistake that seeing this code is truly a gift to see. And it took much time and separation to see that. But there's something about even releasing words right now when we focus on, when we break this down into verse by verse, you know, line upon line, it starts to, yes, it's exciting when we see the amazing unfolding of stories that is a narrative that goes beyond the black and white script. But there is something more going on here, that after the years of stewarding this, that it's like, I no longer really want to go into just the code anymore. I need to allow my heart to express my heart. That either I am or I'm not what I've been journeying into to become a measure of summation. And this is the ability to speak from the heart in all transparency, to have the frequency revealed, that which has been stewarded and gathered over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a very, very vulnerable place to be. And it is what I'm feeling now is I even need to move beyond the construct of the program, even though it needs to go forward to assist other people, but we really need to say what it's speaking. This is you. This is you in full-blown code. And this has been hidden from us. It's been hidden, but it's as much as revealed as it's been hidden. We just have been distanced from or distracted from the intention of becoming our version of our greater selves. But yet it's still part of the experience. So we can't negate that. We just simply need to say, this is part of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just leave it at that.
If you guys want to open up and share, I don't have anything else that I wanted to share. That was it. Just if there's something that's connecting with you and today, what we were looking at, I would love to hear.
Zarin, very good to see your face.
It's been a while.
Regina, it's always good to see your face. I know both these people, so not that I don't know you all, but I'm just sharing that I spend time with both these people.
Hey guys, I want to, for real, from my heart, just a big thank you. Let me turn my volume down. A big thank you for, it's super hot out here and I got my shirt off and it's your platform and you're recording it and I don't want to offend anyone. So
well, thank you.
If it was my Facebook Live or something, I wouldn't care, because if you don't like me with my shirt off, that's your problem. But I really want to say, like, a really big thank you, man, for the breaking down of the dark, the hidden. Man, fireworks were really going off. Neurons were firing in my brain, and I'll definitely be going live on Facebook and talking about that. It was connecting so much for me on that.
That's awesome.
And two, what really, like the whole time you were talking, man, the spirit was just speaking to me about how at one point, you know, people call Jesus Lord, right? And then, but he says, but now I call you brother. But it's that whole journey of, while we're journeying, this is just what the Spirit was speaking to me while you're talking and breaking everything down, is that while we're journeying through the milk, through the mother's teaching, that's where we call him Lord, because he's a teacher. He's guiding us through those waters of mother's teaching. But once we go through the gate and exit mother's teachings into father's teachings, that's now he says, now you're brother. Don't call me Lord anymore. Now you're my brother. You know, you've risen yourself up out of the chaos, out of the waters, and you're ready for this deeper hidden teachings. Now you're my brother. Even though, I mean, in the reality of the thing, we're always his brother, always have been his brother. You know what I'm saying in that regard? But that's just how the Spirit was breaking it down and showing me. So I thought that was really cool. And I know that might seem like, well, Brandon, you weren't listening at all to anything.
No, I like that. It's that I want to call you friend. And the word friend has two meanings. One is it's reshain. One means adversary. The other one means special friend. So when you get past that place of even being a brotherhood, because it's aleph het, it's one who has found life.
Achim.
That's ach, or achim, or achot. Achot is the aleph het vav tav. It means one who has found life, that is connected to their heart within and has been marked with the covenant of Father, because they've become the frequency. That's when he said brother. But when he says friend, it means that you become friend and adversary. And so when you think about that, when you hear us say adversarial friend, the adversarial friend is meant to raise you up from your poor and destitute place so that you can have the eye to see. So if you are in the place where you're being an adversarial friend, is because who you are in the adversarial friendship with is being in a poor and destitute position, and you're trying to raise them up so that they can see from a higher vantage point than that which is plaguing them and keeping them in the place that's not becoming. That's what I feel like that we're all being raised into, is understanding that the adversarial component is a catalyst to raise us up. It's not to be an adversary to bump heads. It's meant that we need each other, because sometimes through that mirror, we don't see our own reflection, but our adversarial friends do. And if we've given them permission to speak into our life, they can bring things up, and we can begin to help one another to raise each other up, because it's going to take all of us.
When Carrie, just even on sharing that again, when we've been in wordsmithing for so long now, we've had to extrapolate out even English narrative that is really based off the Hebrew and Aramaic dialect. And so, but we get intimidated sometimes when we say certain words that are pretty lofty. It seems that they're within regal reach that is unattainable just to the layman. And that's inaccurate thinking. When we say Supreme Court, we are intended to be the Supreme Court. When we see the representation in the earth of that benchmark of representation, that is full judicial awareness of knowing what is adversarial and friend. That is the only way that you can administer mercy correctly, is by knowing the side of adversary. You can't look at it and say, I'm measuring you based on what you're presenting to me, but I really don't know the experience. No, these ones that are sitting as a supreme being, as the court, because court in Hebrew means a princely estate. And supreme court, when you break down supreme, it means sovereign. So you are a sovereign estate is what Supreme Court means. We all are a supreme residence, or a sovereign residence of a court measure. Through self-adjudication, you're knowing how to discern because you've gone through the experience. There's not a guessing to say, I don't know the nature. No, you are the frequency and you are the nature. That's what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is, again, only adversarial friend can properly adjudicate as an adversarial friend. You're properly balanced as a center stand. The scales are balanced in mercy and adjudication. Why? Because you are that scale. You are the stand that is properly balanced. It's just a different or not a different, it should be a common perspective. But we look at these words and we distance ourselves from it. That's the rule and reign, the dominion that's in the earth right now, at least in the American format, is a Supreme Court. But make no mistake, that is a representation and a mirror that potentially is us. But there is a sealing that's about to take place. There's a difference that's going on right now. We're gathering incrementally measures of a feminine nature called Ruach. And so a woman comes on the scene, it will be not just woman, it will also be man. It is a representation of mankind in its intention. There isn't really man, it's mankind. But the feminine nature is more of a whirlwind. It's like a whirlwind and a straight line together in one body. There is the straight line of the word,
which is the plumb line
which
that goes in the center.
Through the horizontal of mother, you found the vertical of father.
Yep.
Now the spirit can dwell in that axis, and this is the whirling of the spirit. That's that whirlingness that's far-reaching, but it still is defined by its center line.
Yep. Yep.
That's what's coming. And it does look crazy to the world because we reach out into the ether to pull back, and people that aren't in this place of discerning what the spirit is doing right now, it's either intriguing to them
or it's repelling them.
Or right, we see a draw or repel. That's the whole basis and premises of what we're seeing in this language.
Well, that's what the verse we just looked at.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah,
that word in there,
perfect.
It was either they're going to push back or they're going to draw in, depending on where they are in their level of maturation. If they've been risen up about, if they're in system of duality, they're going to be repelled from this message. They aren't going to see the hour in which that we are in. They won't see the instruction in oneness has come, and they're going to repel from it because they want to stay in the system of duality, which is the fallen flesh matrix that we've all been in, except that there's those of us that are trying to rise up out of it. So,
and make no mistake, again, just oh, did we lose?
Regina had to go.
Not Regina, did we lose?
And Greg is going to probably head on out too, because we're at 3:30.
Oh,
so
we lose Brandon
thank you,
too.
Greg.
I was just going to say with Brandon, as far as his black and white narrative of, make no mistake, the whole process of ingathering the spirit is the full adornment of adjudication. The reason the black robe is the black robe, why we see our judge, magistrate, it's intended to really be the mysterious level of the brilliant white that is contained. It's supposed to be white within, but they are representing as a father component. That's why the robes are black. But they're supposed to be revealing from the wisdom, mysterious wisdom that is allowing them to seat in that into that seat of counsel. So that's why we even have that representation in the earth. But so it's another black and white narrative that you're wrapped in the garment of black because you are fully illuminated in the knowing of self-adjudication.